You asked me earlier, before we went on air, Coach Tab, if I've ever seen anything like what 30 did in a finals game. 38 points. And what I told you was that's as close as to LeBron-esque as you can see in the UAAP, the way 30 dominated an entire game.
Well, I mean, that's a huge comparison. But in the context of that game, I think we saw 30 mature. I think we saw a lot of work that's been done with him and a tremendous amount of work that he's done on his own all come together, because it wasn't just the amount of points, rebounds, assists, and steals.
That didn't impress you the most. The 38 points did not impress you the most.
It didn't.
What did?
The efficiency. The efficiency. And you know, for him to recognize opportunities in the game, for him to be a calming influence, for him to make shots when UP was making runs. These were things that we haven't seen enough from 30. And to see it in that moment means that, you know, the moment wasn't bigger than him. And I think that when you see that with a very, very talented player, now you start to realize that maturity is taking root. And as you said, I think it bodes well for Ateneo, and it bodes well for 30's future.
Does not bode well for the rest of the league. Huh?
We'll have to see how that plays out.
Speaking of maturity, what about the maturity gained by Angelo Kwame in the finals?
Yeah, I think there was a redemption game for Ange. You know, the game one where he didn't actually play a bad game, but he was nervous, you know, particularly at the offensive end. He showed signs of being unsure of himself and lacking a bit of confidence. But in last night's game, I think he came with a different mindset. He put a lot of distractions out of his mind. He understood what was needed of him, and it wasn't to go out and be an offensive powerhouse. It was to protect the lane, block shots, rebound the ball, and move. And I think his movement in line with what the players around him were doing created some opportunities, and he finished opportunities. Getting those 2 early dunks, I think, really relaxed him, and then he went on to play a tremendous game. That
was a big difference. He missed a dunk early in game 1. He made his dunks early in game 2, and that sort of set the tone for him. And speaking of setting the tone, this dominance that you had this year, like, people are actually wondering why you lost 2 games in the first round. You're probably wondering that yourself. Your dominant win this season, does that set the tone for the next year, the year after, and the year after?
Well, I think if you want to look ahead, which we don't really want to do right now, we have a lot of work to do before we start talking about results. But if you want to look ahead, we have a lot of returning players. We have a fairly intact roster. And we have good recruits coming in, so it's going to be a real battle just to make the team next year.
I can hear fans of others go, what? They have recruits? They don't need recruits.
Absolutely. Well, we don't sleep. You know, we don't sleep in that regard, and we want to have a great B team, in fact, and we want to groom our players through the B team. So I think the future is bright. I think when we have players like 30 coming back, we have a whole group of seniors, 30 and Matt, Mike, and Aaron, and these guys, and then you've got a maturing Kwame who's going to be a handful for another 4 years. I think the future certainly looks bright, but again, talk about it or get down and do the work and build something. That's what we prefer to do.
How do you intend to celebrate your second straight championship?
Not so much.
Not so much?
No, not really.
Why, you'd rather go back to work than celebrate?
Well, I want to relax, to be honest. I had a great night with the team last night. We went to Icho restaurant over in Green Hills, and we had a fantastic Japanese meal, and everybody was there with the families, and that's what I like to see. I like to see the families. I like to, you know, to see the extension of who we try to be as a brotherhood. And now we all have to kind of get away from each other and relax. So I'm going to go back to the States soon and visit my siblings who I haven't seen in some time, and recharge the batteries. And I'm looking forward to that.
So you're not at all thinking about a possible three-peat?
I mean, you know, that's a long, long way down the track. What I want to do is help these young men with our coaching staff develop into, you know, great basketball entities and see their careers flourish. And that's the dream for me.
And for the second straight year, I'm talking to you about a championship, and the way things are shaping up, I might have to get used to this. Once again, Coach Tab, congratulations on the championship and another great season.
Nico, thank you very, very much, and we appreciate all of you in the media as well.
We'll still talk about Coach Tab and the Blue Eagles title victory after the break. This time we'll be joined by our analysts Bo Belga and Jet Manuel. So stay with us.